Start off by saying I'm probably younger than everybody else here, so I have less experience, and I'm sure you guys all have more knowledge than me. So it's a discussion type of event. So whatever thoughts you guys have, please do share and give me, if you can correct me or share your views. So this presentation is mostly based on or inspired by a book I read called The Pearls of Heart, which was by Jaspal Singh. And he writes, this is mostly relating to the first part of it, which he talks about awareness. And I got a little bit inspired by that, and then the rest is kind of my own research and interpretations of where I took it. So to start off, I want to go over a little bit background and kind of set the stage, which is the kind of generic view of the current situation in society, which is that in the past 50 to 100 years there's been so much development, there's so many technological advances, medical advances, discoveries, evolutions, but there's still this issue that people don't have peace of mind. That's a lot of people are, even despite having all these luxuries, there's a lot of family problems, there's drug problems, there's abuse, there's so many things going on. And he makes this observation that all these things kind of coming together, there's like new products released every year, and we just have to try to get the next best thing that's coming out, right? So trying to follow all of that, the human being, man, has become very materialistic. So we've become very materialistic, we've become very individualistic, focusing on ourselves and our own needs, and then because of that we become egotistical as well. And so this ego, this materialism, all these things are kind of responsible for these problems. So underlying all these issues, there's this problem. The main thing is that we've become caught up in material accumulation of getting more and more and more, whether that's cars and houses or small objects or money or anything. And a major problem with a lot of people are having is we don't have a purpose in life. There's a lack of some kind of goal, like beyond this worldly goal of accumulating more and becoming successful. There's that spiritual goal isn't there, and when that's lacking, there's this like emptiness and there's this feeling. And so when we just try to gather wealth and things for ourselves, for our own happiness, we're losing compassion, kindness, obedience, and replacing it with anger and competition and cruelty. And
technology a bad thing? We use technology to even
it is. No, it's definitely a good thing, right? I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying in the current time there's this material accumulation that we're going after, right? I mean, we have a lot to gain from technology, right? It's improved life in a lot of ways as well. But all these tools and inventions, they've been created because of someone's keen awareness, because they made some observation, they understood something, they realized something, like discovery of gravity or something, when Newton seeing that, the apple is falling, and he took a deeper level of understanding, because apples are falling all the time, right? Whether that's a story or however it is, if someone's more aware, they can take something good out of it. So the thing is, this problem that's going on, not due just to technology, but just because of our materialistic or egotistical urges, has also become a problem for the Sikh community as well, right? Even though we have Guru Sahib, who has given us all this knowledge and wisdom to bring us above all this, we're still facing these same problems as everyone else in the world. And part of that is that we come to the Guru, we come to Gurudwara, but we don't always make the best effort to understand what Guru Sahib is saying. And that becomes more of a, what he says is affirming our affiliation as a Sikh. That, I'm a Sikh, I go to the Gurudwara, these are the things I do, I matha tek, I listen to kirtan, and I eat langar. Whereas there's a deeper underlying message that is the education aspect of it. If we come to Gurdwara, we need to learn something, we need to take something back with us. That we're sitting here listening to the Shabad, what does it mean for us, what does it mean for our life? Kind of like what we're doing here in this setting, right? It seems like the majority of our community is not doing that. You can see how few we have people here compared to how many people are just coming in general, coming and going. So that's a big part of it. And the issue here is that we're doing the things that we're supposed to be doing as Sikhs, or some of them, right? We're doing the like Paath karna, Simran karna to some extent, but we're not letting that we're not taking its full effect, because even though we're doing it, we're still stuck in the Panch Vikar. We're still, even though we're doing Paath, Guru Sahib says, Paath padyo, Advaid Vichaaryo, Nival Payangam Sadhe, Panch Janasyo, Sangana Chutkyo, Adik Ahangund Badhe. So we're doing some of these things, but we're not always understanding the meaning behind them. We're not necessarily always using it to improve our spiritual state. And if we're not making that progress, we're still stuck in ego, we're still stuck in greed, then doing this Paath, doing this Kirtan doesn't really get us that far. It loses a lot of its value, a lot of its what it can do for us, if we're just doing it, as a cycle without actually using it to uplift ourselves. So we're mostly caught in doing these rituals and these activities, and we're still stuck in these Panch Jana, which comes often in a lot of different words, like Panch Juan or Panchan or Panchachor or Panchveri or any of these terms. So we're going to take a closer look at what these are and how they affect us. So Guru Sahib says, Is dehi andar panchachor vase, kam, krodh, lobh, moh, ahankara. That these 5 are in this body, right? So everybody has it. It's not like he has it only. It's natural for us all to have it. They come with us, right, in our body. And what do? Amrit lootte hai, manmukh nahi bujhe, koi na sune pukara. So they steal this amrit, this naam that's inside of us, and they ruin it. They rob us, they plunder it from us. And when you're not facing the Guru, when you're not understanding the Guru's message, you're becoming like a manmukh. You don't understand this, right? So the manmukhs don't understand, but once you face the Guru and you look into Gurbani, you look into Guru Sahib's advice, we understand these, that this is what's happening, this is the current situation. And Guruji says that the whole world is blind. Everyone is caught in the blindness of the Maya, of the Panchachor. And without the true Guru, there's only darkness. As we know, Guru is the one that shows us the light in the dark. So without the Guru, we're all kind of blinded by this. Anda Jagat Andavartara Baj Guru Guvara. So these 5, we can come down to them, we can look at them individually, that they're kind of the cause of all these problems that we mentioned earlier. If you actually try to analyze it, you can probably trace down the cause of every big conflict to one of these 5, whether it was anger, it was greed, or lust. A lot of wars, a lot of problems in the world that are caused by society can be traced down to one of these, which we're entangled by. And although some of these things are necessary for our survival, they need to be there, right? We need to have some sort of, maybe not anger, but some sort of just being able to stand up for yourself, right? To help others, like you need that. And without some of these things, like human life would not continue on, right? We wouldn't be able to survive. Like Kam is desire, right? I'm sure most people are familiar with these. It can mostly talking about lust, but it can be desire for other things as well. And Krodh, which is anger. Lobh is greed, can be selfishness, desire to get more, and Moh is attachment, and Ahankar being ego. So like we're not supposed to have attachment, but at the same time we need to at least fulfill our obligations to our family, right? We need to have some sort of feeling that we need to care for each other. So these things need to be there at a small, subtle level, but if you become too much of anything, it becomes a big problem. So
the issue of attachment is actually a confusing one, because love is a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should love our family, we should love our children, we have to give love, but you have to do it in a way that's constructive and positive. There's also a possessiveness and a kind of unhealthy attachment where you're willing to do bad things for the sake of people you care for, or you're willing to, you're driven more by that relationship than by what's actually good. So there can be unhealthy, extreme version of excessive attachment.
Right.
That's kind of a subtle distinction between good love and bad love. Anybody else have any comment on that? Because that's also.
I think that's very appropriate. Similarly, I think for Home also, Guruji says, Home Dirgh Rokha, Daru Pi Ismaye. Kirpa kare je apne Gurkha sab kamaye. So again, there's a subtle difference, right? How you channel any of these
Right.
things.
Pride is bad, but self-respect is important.
Right, self-respect is important at the same time, right? Because like anak, and there's a lot of things that we need to have in order to, to continue,
Yeah.
right? So it's necessary to some extent, and that these five combined, right, or in different people, there's different things that affect us more or less. That one may be a bigger issue for one person, and another one may be a bigger issue for a different person. But all these are what are hindering our spiritual progress. And there's a shabad, I think, by Bhagat Ravdas ji, Nath kachu na jano, man maya ke haath bikano. And he says, in panchan mero man jo bigareo, pal pal har jeete antar paryo, right? So these five unhone mere man nu vigarta, and as they're ruining my mind because they're taking control of it, each and every second there's a rift, there's a space between me and God and Vaheguru, and we're becoming separated because of these five, right? And out of these, there's a lot of importance given to ego, because you can basically say that ego is like the leader. And there's a shabad where Guruji kind of tells how all these different, all the animals have been given different diseases, so to speak. And for humans, the big thing is ego. That the human being has been given this problem. I don't know how much animals would have ego, right? They might have lust and greed and other things, but ego is a big problem for humans because it's basically like a wall that will separate us and the divine when we think that we're a separate entity. And it's such a big problem that if we're full of ego, Naam doesn't really dwell inside us. The experience of being one with Vaheguru doesn't come. And Guruji says, Home Naam naal virod hai. So they're kind of Home and Naam, can't really work together like that. Doy na vasaye ek thai. They don't stay in the same space. So as long as that Home is occupying us, the Naam can't really enter. So if we're asking for the Naam, but we're not willing to give up that I and me, where this is what it's all about, that Naam can't really stay there. And
I want to add something. I think there's a distinction between Haume and Hankar as a part of one of the five Vikars.
Okay.
Because Haume is kind of the all-encompassing sense
Right.
of I, separation from Vaheguru, separation from everyone else. And Haume gives rise to all five of these things, including
Okay.
Hankar. So in English, we translate both as ego.
Right.
But I think there's a distinction in the concept of Haume and Gurbani and the Hankar or Hame, which comes as a part of the five.
Okay.
It's a subtle difference.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Home is a broader sense of I, separate from God, separate from everybody else. It's the
Okay.
and pride is,
Like
I'm better.
I'm better.
I'm greater than
Right. Right.
they're obviously
That makes
very
sense.
related.
Yeah, they're very related, but that makes
Are you saying Home means pride?
No, Home
Home
means
means
Home means
I.
ego.
Sense of I, separate from the rest of the world, separate from God's. And that is from a psychology point of view, you often use the word ego for that. But ego is also used for pride, which is Hankar. So the English word ego kind of confuses the issue a little bit.
confuses them both. That's very true. The Homa is like the bigger overlying issue, right? And it can
Homa is
cause
the
all of them. Whereas
underlying
Hankar
issue.
is more of I'm better, right? It's just like a self-pride, right?
Generally speaking, do we see that this is far more prevalent in our community than others? I've seen that because I lived in Madhya Pradesh a lot, Punjab a lot. I see more in Punjab, less.
More ego.
Yeah, more
Or
ego
Hankar.
and pride, and maybe
Okay, Hankar.
culturally we are
I
bombarded
think that's a
with-
Punjabi tribal kind of aspect of Punjabis a little bit. They're a little more.
Yep. Because all the songs, Put Jatade,
Yeah.
they are all based on full of ego, generally
Yeah.
our culture.
I think
Right,
that's
it-
Punjabi rather than Sikhi.
Yeah. Right. That's what I think. That's what he's asking.
It's more prevalent in our culture than.
Okay,
others,
yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
I think
That's-
the Chirti Kala also kind of associated with how, Sikhs stay in Chirti Kala.
Right.
Well, there we
they
come
are
to that.
positive.
That subtle difference between in all of these.
Right.
There's the wrong aspect and there's a little bit of it that makes sense actually.
Yeah. Like instead of anger with the,
Chirti Kala is not ego though.
no, it's it's a bit of pride, right? But it's like a positive pride.
Empowerment.
Good aspect.
Yeah.
I think
Empowerment,
this
self-respect.
was empowerment, a sense of like, I can.
Exactly. And the same way instead of
That's it again. Empowerment for what, I guess? That's the question. What is your ultimate goal?
right. Right. like we don't, anger is a problem, but there's something that Guru Gobind Singh Ji talks about, which is Veer Ras, right? Veer Ras, which is also kind of going with that Chardi Kala. Like you need to have that empowerment and that drive to do something for righteousness or for justice.
Yeah, there's a line from Guru Gobind Singh Ji that goes something like, "Jabban lagyo tab ros jaage."
Yeah.
So Rose is anger, but here it's a positive thing. He's saying that
Right.
we all get into Josh. And
Then you get into Josh, because without that, we wouldn't have been able to come this far that we've had.
Yeah,
So
kind of stand up and be counted kind of.
yeah, that's kind of what it's like. There's a strength that we need. Okay, so the issue here is that there are these 5, and then there's us, and there's kind of this battle going on, where Guruji says, "Avar panch hum ek jana." There's 5 of them, and there's only 1 of me. Kyo rakhon karbar mana. And how can I protect myself, my house, as in my soul, my body, and my mind from these 5 that are constantly attacking me? And he says, "Mar hai, lut hai, neet neet, kis aage kari pukar jana." They're continuously attacking me, bombarding me. Even earlier it said, "Amrit lut hai," right? They're plundering me of my good deeds, my good values, all my the positive things that I've done. They ruin those for me. And he says, "Kis aage kari pukar jana?" Who can I cry to? Who can I ask for help? Who can I go to? Who can help me? So because when these things gang up and they take over our mind, there's not really that many people out there who can help us. It's really the Guru that we can go to, and the Gurbani. So for awareness, the first thing we need to be aware of is that who they are, what these enemies are, what they mean, and what they do, right? Their nature. Because if you're in a battle, you need to understand your enemy and how it works. So then we can be aware of how they're affecting us, and be aware of our limitations of how much we can do when we're actually trying to fight with them. So Guruji in the Shabad, I know it's very small. I was trying to fit the whole Shabad. So Guruji asks for help straight to Vaheguru, to our Father. He says, "Rakh pita prav mere, mohe nirgun sab gun tere, and panch bikhadi ek gariba." So just like the last Shabad, he says there's 5 of them, and there's only poor me, ek gariba, rakho rakhan hare. So, oh, you protector, saver, can you please save me? खेद करें और बहुत संताप है आयो शरण तुहारे और मनु बहुत तंग करी जाते ने they keep bothering me so much, right? So now I've come to you, ayo sharan tuhare, I've come to your protection, your sanctuary, to please save me. And he says, I've tried everything else, right? Kar kar hareo anik bho panti chodhe katahu nahi. I've lost, I've given up trying all these things because they won't leave me alone. Ek baat sunta ki ota sad sang mit jahi. But one thing I've heard about them is, when you go into the sad sangat, that's when they can be destroyed. That's when they can be. So along with the Guru Shabad, the wisdom of the Guru, and the sad sangat, that's how we have a chance of kind of fighting these.
So does it mean that most of the Gurus also struggled with this as they went through their journey? Because this is what Gurus
Right, Gurus
are saying.
Right.
That there is a fight going on within themselves.
I think Guruji often puts himself in our position.
I agree, yes.
So he often says, he puts himself in the position of somebody who's at a different stage. And he puts it in the first person, tries to explain things.
Yeah.
I think they were very aware of all these things, in the sense that if they saw, for example, if I'm being driven with home, I may not realize it. But they were very aware of it. It did attack them also occasionally, but they were so much self-aware that they brought it out.
Right.
And they had the wisdom to go and pray and write these prayers.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of it is from
Awareness of these is that when you are under the control of these is when you are least aware of what you're doing. Like
Right.
If you're angry, or if you are under calm, or if you're being very greedy and you desperately want something, that's the time you're least aware that.
Right, exactly.
Maybe afterwards you can think, hey, I did that, I didn't feel good.
Yeah, I think that happens often. When we have a cool head later on, we think, oh, I was angry at the time, main putha siddha bolta much or something, right? But at the time, we don't realize that I'm angry, this is why I'm doing it. So yeah, I think Guru Sahib wrote a lot of these shabads from first person, but they're mostly for our situation, so we can understand in our feet. Because because some of them say, I'm very bad, I'm like this. If Guru Sahib truly was like that, then then how can we follow? Like the Guru has to be perfect, right? So
I think he's showing us an example.
it's showing us
How we should
example.
pray.
Yeah.
This is how our ardas should be, and he's giving us that
The
example.
problem and a solution.
But I
Go
think
to
that,
Satsang.
I think that, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and I don't know the exact phrase, but he did say though that I'm a human being. And I
Yeah, he
think
did
all
say
the
that.
Gurus saw themselves, they were human beings. I mean,
Yeah,
were
they
not
did say that. Yeah.
farishte. They weren't floating above. They did live life.
Uh-huh.
They were born. They went through all the same physical sensations we went through. But that's precisely the brilliance of their ability to, at some point, step back and understand this. And I think it's important for us to recognize their humanity. I mean, and I think Guru Gobind Singh Ji himself, why did he stop the mortal guruship? I mean, he recognized that, he himself said that, do not put me on this pedestal. I am no, Ape Gur Chela.
Yeah.
Guru Gobind Singh Ji, they at so many points in his life wanted us to see him as a human being, as someone who could make mistakes, but who also continued to strive for. I mean, I think that these, in Barney, for me anyway, when I read these, it's not so much that you're going to reach a level and then you're done. You've hit the lottery and you're smooth sailing. I don't think it's that way. I think that we have to remember that it's the process, not the end, that in which the happiness, the anand, the contentment comes from. Not that you reach some level and then you're kind of finished.
Right.
Yeah, but I do think the Gurus were at a very high level, and most of these are more he's telling us how we should pray to God because we are not at his level.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I agree that they were human as well. They were human.
Yeah, but I think that they constantly reminded us of their own humanity, and I think maybe that's precisely why they were above us, because they were able to see that. But I think they do it I think they did go through these things.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, the main thing there is that they had the awareness to recognize them, right? I also think that a lot of times it's, like you're saying, where they're showing their humanity, it's out of humility as well. And, not how they were different than a lot of other, spiritual people at the time, or a lot of religious leaders who kind of proclaimed themselves as higher than everybody else. So that was something that made Guru Sahib unique, that they had the humility to say, you can be the same level as I am, and I can ape Gur Chela. So that was very amazing. So there's a lot of Shabas where Guruji tells this, right? And sometimes they use metaphors, sometimes they use first person. But basically, this is kind of given as overall, like the game of life, where Guruji says, Karam taram tum chopad sajo sat karo tum sari, Kam krodh lobh moh jito aisi khel har pyari. So to win over these vices, this is a game that God wants us to play, and this is a game that God wants us to win. Moh jito. Vaheguru wants us to win over them, right? So even though we're all given them, we all have a struggle, Guruji is trying to help us win over them, and this is like a little game that we have. And he says, he enjoys this game, watching us kind of struggle, but also kind of, hoping that we're going to win, wanting us to win and helping us win. But and then Guruji gives advice, and then Utishnan karo parvate soy har aradhe, as in, always remembering Vaheguru, always doing Simran, and then Dikhde dao langave mera satgur sukh sahaj seti kar jate. And when you're having a lot of trouble on the rocky, path where it's really difficult, your guru will help you as long as you remember and follow the advice. Listen to Gurbani, or use Gurbani itself to get you through those tough times. Because when we're constantly reading these, we're getting reminded again and again, right? So we have Guru as our ally, Vikhre dao langave mera satgur, in this game. And so if the Guru is with us and we have the Sangat, it's like a team battle then, right? So now we have a whole group of us. Maybe we can take them on if we have like-minded individuals who all realize this problem and they're aware that they want to fight it. So that's the game, and this comes again and again as a type of battle. That Guruji has this like metaphor kind of story where he says, Hong Gosayinda Pehlwanada, Main Gurmil Uch Dumalada, Sab Hoi Chinj Ikathiya Dui Baithe Vekhe Aap Ji, right? So I'm like a wrestler, I'm a warrior, and I'm going, it's me versus them 5, and they're coming, and there's a ring, and everyone's watching, there's drums playing, there's music playing, and God himself is sitting there watching this little battle going on. And he says, Vaat vajan tamak periyan, malalathe lande feriyan. So the wrestlers come, and now they're kind of going around, encircling, and he says, Nehte panj juan mein gur thapi ditti kand jiyo. So now I've fought them, and I've wrestled them, and I've taken them all down. Right? I've taken them all down, and Guru Sahib has blessed me, giving me a pat on the back saying, good job, you did good. So this kind of like an example basically is saying that, with the Guru's blessings, this little battle that's going on, you can win it. And it can be done with Guru Sahib's blessing, and it's kind of showing this, that this is what's, it's a really nice metaphor, that this is what's going on. And
beautiful how he describes it. And
right?
it was a tournament that
Game of life, I like
he
that
was
slide.
setting up for.
Yeah, thank you. Guru Gobind Singh Ji often talks about the same things, like for the Khalsa, that's kind of what the Khalsa is supposed to be doing too, which is Khalsa soy karanit jung, right? So it says that Khalsa is the one that has a battle daily, every single day, all the time.
Important thing is we don't do our jung with other Khalsas in the Gurdwara.
Right. So that doesn't mean always be fighting all the time. If there's no war going on and there's no physical enemies coming at you, how can you be doing this battle all the time? Because there's an internal conflict, this internal battle that we have to fight against these 5 every single day of our lives. One and after the other they come, and so it's a continuous process. Like you were saying, you can't. It's not just immediately now it's taken care of, but regularly they're going to be coming up, and we're going to regularly have to fight them back down, right? And I know there was this 5 versus 1 kind of thing. Guru Sahib has given us a lot of tools and ways. Like it's interesting how there's 5 of them. We have like the Panj Baniya, right? We have Panj Kakar, we have a Panj Pyare, and each of their names represent something, right? So we have Daya, Taram, right? Santokh, and then there's all these values that we get that we can use to kind of use as a leverage, as weapons to fight against these. And even when Guru Sahib describes like what is a Khalsa, they say it's someone who is fully aware. Right? That's a really high spiritual stage to attain. Then you can recognize them as a true Khalsa who has this fully radiant light of Vaheguru inside them, and they realize it. So this is where we come to the kind of awareness. 1 second. So there's a problem, there's a lack, is that from the awareness is we're kind of sleeping in this attachment, in this maya, in this distraction of the world, right? And Guruji gives this whole kind of descriptive story where he says, Naino neend par drisht vikar, sravan soye sun nind vichar, rasna soy lob mithe sad, man soya maya bismad. So our eyes are all our senses, and our mind is asleep under various influences, which is in corruption, in our ears are asleep listening to slander and gossip. Our tongue is asleep because it's this desire of tastes and flavors, and our mind is fascinated by Maya. It's asleep. And then Guruji says, "Is grah mein koi jagat rahe, sabat vast o apni lahe." Like it's very rare someone who is actually awake here in this world, in this house. Is there anyone who's awake that can understand and recognize this? Someone who has this awareness. And so Guruji goes on about how all of my companions, all of my friends are kind of following these sensually pleasures, and they don't grihe apne ki khabar na jati. They don't even know how to protect their own home. And earlier Guruji was saying, Kyo rakho kar bar mana, how can I protect my house and myself? So it says most of us are not aware. And then musanhar panch batware. So these 5 thieves have plundered them. They've plundered everybody. Sunne nagar pare thag hare, and they called thugs. These thugs came and they descended upon this village which is not guarded because it doesn't have awareness. It's not using this knowledge, this gyan that Guruji has given us. And it says that there's no one else like in the world that can really protect us from these, because it's a personal battle, right? It's an inner battle. So in the same Shabad, Guruji goes on to say, Unte rakhe meet na pai, unte rakhe baap na mai, right? Your friends, your parents, your family, your friends, none of them can save you from these 5. Darab seanat na hoye rehte, saad sang oy dushtavas hote. And then so it comes back just like the other Shabads, where even with cleverness and all sorts of intellectual things, they can't be controlled. But with the company of the Sad Sangat, you can be helped, you can be guided, and you can all work on it together. And then in the end, Guruji does a kind of ardas, kar kirpa, mohe sarang pan, santan tur sarmridan. So in the end, it comes back to Guru Sahib blessing us and asking for that blessing, right? There's an ardas where it says, so jagya jis prabhu kirpal. So only that person can really be truly awake and aware who Guruji does blessing and kirpa on. E punji sabat tanwar, and then they can achieve this investment and they can guard it. So there's one thing is being aware of the problem, right, and trying to tackle it, and the next is having sangat, sad sangat, and then going to Guru Sahib for the ultimate ally, the ultimate help, and the ultimate guidance. So these are some of the things that Bhai Sahib in this book he mentioned when he was talking about awareness, which was if we start, like Uncle Ji was saying, it's really hard to be aware of the feeling while it's happening. But he says if we train ourselves to be aware all the time, which is by being aware of every single act that we're doing, whether it's brushing our teeth or taking a walk or eating, right? A lot of times, I know now this fast-paced life, we like to multitask, and so do I, so we try to do everything at the same time. But then we're not focused on any of them. He said if you're eating, focus on your eating, right? And notice every fine little detail. And when you do that, your awareness becomes heightened to another level, where your awareness becomes sharpened. Like when we see a flower outside, we just think, oh, it's a flower, oh, it's pretty or something. When a poet sees that same flower, they can go on and on so many lines about how beautiful that flower is, what it's trying to communicate. Even Guru Sahib and Gurbani, when they're talking with inanimate objects, right? And they're saying, this bird is telling me about its like separation from the Lord or something. So they really see deeper into it, and if we sharpen that awareness so we can observe every little thing and we can get like the deeper meaning out of it. And so he kind of advises that be more aware of every activity, and then be aware that you are being aware. Be aware of that awareness. Yeah. And once you're being more aware, you try to understand the motivation behind each and every action that you're taking, right? Why am I doing this? Maybe when you're calm-headed, you can kind of, what is driving me to do this? Am I doing this out of anger? Am I doing this out of ankar? Or, am I doing this out of kam or lust or something? You can kind of pinpoint what's driving each of those. And as you do that, you realize, I'm doing this out of anger and I shouldn't be doing it. So you can, and slowly we can kind of train our mind for this awareness. And at the same time, this awareness is that's one level, and the other level is being aware of Vaheguru all the time, in and around us, right? Inside us, around us, in every single thing. Where Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, "Dhyan taro tehko man mein, jehko amitoj sabeh jag chhayo," who's kind of controls the whole world. That one being that is in everything. That light, you can say it's the soul, it's the Naam, it's the Atma. Be aware of that power and pay attention to it. So instead of letting outside forces influence you, because we get influenced very easily. We see one little thing and our mind will go into Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ankar, right? And we'll start acting like that. So if we always try to stay aware and identify that this is the cause, this is why this is happening, and be aware of Vaheguru, who's always there, we have this closer connection to our soul, closer connection to Vaheguru, and kind of understand Guruji's this process. In another Shabad, Guruji says, focus your consciousness on Vaheguru, and deep within there's this antarpah, there's this fire, this agni, and try to keep it in check, try to control it, right? Using Guru's wisdom, using Guru's knowledge, and all of this, if you get that together, you have this light where you can kind of see, right? With the Guru's gyan, you can kind of be a little more aware. So what all this kind of boils down to in a simplistic way is that the first thing we need to do is admit that this problem is there, that it exists, right? That we are bound by Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ankar, that they are causing our problems. Because if we're not ready, when the first thing someone who needs to go to therapy, they first have to admit that they have this problem. And if we're not ready to do that, I don't have ego, then we're not going to be able to solve this problem, right?
Actually, we find we put the responsibility of our situation on others around, or the events, or something else. That person did that to me, this is what happened, this was my luck, and usually the answers are all within yourself, and that's what you can look within yourself and be more aware of you're part of the equation rather than
right,
the
right.
environment.
Hanji.
And take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
Exactly. And Guru Sahib teaches us because they themselves go, like we were saying, in utter humility, they will put it on themselves that this is man mera dyal seti thir na raha. He says, Lobi kapti. Papi pakhandi maya. He says, I'm greedy, I'm a sinner, I'm stuck in maya. So they're kind of admitting that problem for us, right? That I'm stuck in all these things. Where he says, Bhai Gurdas, he says, Ho aparadi gunahgar ho bemukhmanda, and that whole Shabad where he says, basically talking about all the vices and problems that he's having or that he's in from a point of humility. And when you admit that, then all the way in the end, Bisas katiya kirtkarn mein ko narakhanda simar murida tadiya satgur bakshanda. So in the end, you have to come back to Guru and ask for that forgiveness. So once we're aware and we admit the problem, then we can be aware of our actions, every single thing what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then being aware of Vaheguru being inside everything all around us, right? And that's like awareness. The Sabjot Teri Jagjivana, Tukat Kat Har Rang Rangana, or Guru Gobind Singh Ji Kat Kat Mein Har Jub Se Santan Ke Pukar. Or there's so many shabas like that, where once we're aware, because if we're aware that you're Vaheguru and I'm Vaheguru, I'm not going to want to have krodh towards you, right? I'm not going to want to do any negativity at all. Once we realize that everything around us is part of the same one creation, the same light, this Kaam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar will start getting reduced naturally, at least like on a personal level, right? We don't want to hurt other beings. We don't want to steal from someone. We don't want them to suffer because that is God and we're God. We're all the same. So with that awareness, with that realization, that'll help these. And then there's another awareness that Vaheguru is watching over us. In the Japji Sahib Vyakhya, they were talking about Chitragupat and how there's all our actions are being recorded in some way. So this kind of understanding that Vaheguru is there watching all of us, all of our actions, will help us. Sometimes you need to be scared a little bit, because in front of someone you wouldn't do it. When you're alone, you'll do this, right? The Shabad Luk kart bikar bikhde prab ner hute nereya. So when we're hiding and we're alone, luk karke, we do all sorts of evil things, bad things, right? But prab ner hute nereya, God is as close as can be, because He's inside us, right? So He's outside and inside us. And once we kind of realize that in all of our actions, that'll start inspiring a little bit of a change. And then the other thing we said was this support of Sad Sangat, which is a reoccurring theme in almost all of the Shabas, which says, Sad Sango Dushtvas Hote, right? With them, with their support, we can do it. Or even in Rakh Pita Prav Mere, it goes on and it says, what I heard about them is that in the Sad Sangat, right, that's where they will be controlled. That's the reoccurring theme, that the more people we get together and we're working towards the same thing, even if it's just because we're scared of each other, right? Alone we might be stealing and lying, but in front of them we want to keep up this appearance. We don't want to do bad things in front of other people, at least, right? That's like the first level, where we're kind of afraid to keep our impression and our image in front of people. So we don't want to, let people know that we're greedy or we're egotistical or something. And then if we're all admitting these problems together, we can help each other work on them. And then the final step is, of course, there's only so much we can do. We can have intellectual discussion and we can try our best, but at the end of it, we have to kind of submit in front of Guru Sahib and bow down and say that some of this is out of my control. I've tried my best. The rest, please, Guru Sahib, you have to do like an honest ardas, or can you please help me, become my ally, bless me with Sangat, bless me with this understanding and this awareness that you can help me and you can save me. That's kind of that, even in that Shabad by Bhagat Ravidas Ji, where he says, in Panchan mero man jo bigaryo, pal pal har jeete antar paryo. And later on he even says, Jad dekho tad dukhi rasi ajo na patyay nigam pe sakhi. Like even now, even though I know it and I realize it, I'm still having trouble trying to fight them and conquer them, because most of us already know these problems exist, and we might even know as we're doing it that I'm doing this out of Kaam or Krodh, and we're still sometimes helpless to stop ourselves, right? There's that one, like man janat sab baat janat hi ogan kare, right? Yeah, so even we have, if we have the light and we still decide to fall into the hole, that what can we do? Yeah, so that's when it all comes down to confessing to Guru Sahib and saying I need help. So in that Shabad, he later on says, "In dutan khal bad kar maryo." These enemies, these veris, they're attacking me and they're kind of like bound me up and tied me up and I can't get out, I can't escape, right? Badhun ilaj ajhune hare. I've tried so many things, but I can't get them to lose. So in the end, he says, "Kaharav das kaha kaise ki jai?" Like, what can I do? Who can I go to? Bin Raghunath sharan ka ki li jai. So besides Vaheguru, who else can I go to besides the Lord Vaheguru, right? There's no one else who can really help me and save me. So
and then just like art for your faith, Vichaar.
Right. Yeah. Pyare in main kiye yes, har paryo. Exactly. So I've given up everything, right? When my Swami de kol aa gaya, we give me this blessing, this understanding, and help me. So I just want to end on like a benti shabad, that ardas we can do to Guru Sahib is Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Jhoot, Ninda, inte aap chhadavo. You yourself have to help me escape from these things. Eh pitarte inko daro, apna nikat bulavo. So call me close to you and rid these problems from me, right? And you alone can teach me your ways so that I can sing your praises with Harjan, with all the other servants and sevaks and the Sadh Sangat, right? And that I may never forget you. So that's the ultimate understanding and awareness, that I don't forget you, that I realize you are in everything all the time, including myself. And with meeting the perfect Guru, Guru Sahib Ji, I will be finally content and satisfied and not go anywhere else when I realize. So that's the kind of overall conclusion, is at the end of it, you fall in front of Guru Sahib's feet and ask for the blessing. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Anybody else have any personal thoughts on how you deal with some of these problems in your life, or your experience? Reaction to that? Anything to add?
One thing that seemed to suggest we should be multitasking.
Yeah, that's what he mentioned in the book, and that's a problem for me too, because I do that as much as possible. So it's hard.
Well, most studies show that humans are very bad at multitasking. So your mind has been not multitasking.
You think it works, but it doesn't work most of the time.
Yeah, it just makes it worse.
Because koi aur kam kharab ho gaya, then you have to do it again, right?
Like somebody gave an example,
What
right?
few things do work together.
Yeah, I do them. There's something that doesn't require your mind, right?
Listening to
Yeah.
the Shabad.
Me too.
It works for me.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
1 hour driving, 2 hour driving, otherwise I get bored.
Yeah, me too.
that's different.
That's a simple
So
form.
it's like two things doing at the same time.
I think hands and mind can do too.
If you're on a call and your mind is more engaged, then your driving goes downhill. There's enough documentation on that. Fusion is a little different because that's at a lower level and you can still concentrate more.
Even Katha, listening to Katha.
I often listen to Katha when driving.
So that,
Yeah, I think it's a physical and mental. You can't do two mental things, right?
Yeah, too mental or too physical.
Physical is different, right?
well, the mental is always there, even when you're driving. There's something
But-
of the mental.
Yeah, but it's almost
That's like a background. It's automated. Yeah,
Human brain is capable of few things.
a few things, right?
Things you can do, but not.
But each thing, it loses its optimalness, right? If you're doing two, your percentages divided up, like your cores are divided up into multiple threads. So then it's not going to be as optimal, right? Your driving may not be as well as it if you're fully focused on the road.
Brain is multiprocessor. Bottom line.
Yeah.
I think it is. You see a lot of teenagers doing their homework or studying at the same time they have TV on.
Yeah.
How that works.
That
Yeah.
in my mind.
Actually, a simple example
You lose your efficiency for sure.
was like just say A, B, C, D to Z fast, and then say 1, 2, 3 fast. Now try merging them to like A1, B2. See how your speed reduces.
That would be different.
Just try
You
that.
have to stop and think.
It's like you have to start thinking.
But Guruji does say, like, you can continue your work with your hands and keep your mind. Because that final state is where, regardless of what you're doing, that awareness is always present, right? Yeah, exactly. Hanji. So, yeah. So it's a very good book. It's called Pearls of Heart by Jaspal Singh. So
Who's the Jaspal Singh?
he actually came here once. He actually does kirtan, and he does sometimes he does katha in English and Vichaar, and he wrote this book, and he actually came here last year. No, he's from India or someplace.
Is this book in English?
But he came. It's in English. His book is in English.
Can you just email the email?
Yeah. And this is the first. There's like 3 parts. The first part is the awareness part. That.
The way you covered it, I think you can cover in 2 lectures easily. Like
Very impressive.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right.
And the reason why it was appealing
Plus it's very
because you
practical in
supported
terms of
Gurbani.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's very authenticated.
Yeah.
Not just your own view.
Yeah.
That's what Guru says. Very
Yeah.
impressive.
Thank you very
I
much.
think we should do more
Yeah.
often.
Forgive me if I made any mistakes. But it's a learning process for me too, right? The first few slides were kind of based on his starting, and then the rest was kind of researching Gurbani and trying to organize it in an understandable way.
That's what we look for. Plus it's a base for discussion also. So
Exactly.
This was really good. That's what we look for.
Thank you very
So
much.
yeah, I'll reinforce that. Please do come and participate at least every few months.
I'll try. Yeah, I'll try my best. Thank you. Waਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ.